Thank you. Welcome, everybody. So nice to see you here today. And let's kick off with talking about the different applications of the Entrepreneurial Mindset Profile. We use it quite a bit with leadership development programs. Anytime a client organization mentions innovation, creativity, growth, strategic direction, that's really a sweet spot for the EMP. Also, one-on-one coaching and team building that is focusing on innovation, growth, intrapreneurship, career and workforce development programs, community-based programs for aspiring entrepreneurs. We have a number of universities using it in programs, not only entrepreneurship programs, but a number of other programs where students benefit from thinking about this in terms of career exploration. And then also there are a number of research streams underway focused on entrepreneurial mindset and entrepreneurial success. As of today, more than 51,000 EMPs have been administered, and we have over 750 certified practitioners representing 40 countries and US territories. And we would be delighted if you are considering joining that cadre. So let's get clear about what the EMP does and does not do. The EMP does not produce an overall score that indicates whether you are or are not entrepreneurial, and it doesn't tell you whether you should or should not become an entrepreneur. Rather, what the EMP does is it plots your scores on 14 distinct elements of entrepreneurial mindset against our exclusive normative data for both entrepreneurs and corporate managers. And then the process invites you to reflect on your strengths and also to consider the ways in which you may want to enhance one or more elements of entrepreneurial thought or action. The research team, the authors of the EMP, set out to explore and understand entrepreneurial mindset. And they quickly concluded that entrepreneurial mindset is multifaceted. There are many ways to be entrepreneurial, and everyone is different. So it's not an either-or proposition or a single number like an IQ score, but there are many ways to be entrepreneurial. And so the EMP is presented as a profile of traits and abilities. So we have a poll question for you, and Debra's going to populate that. Our first question for you is entrepreneurial mindset purely genetic? Is it 100% learned, or do you see it as a bit of both? We'd love to get your responses to this poll. Thank you for that. And yes, let's share the results. Thank you, Debra. Very nice. So what we have concluded as well through the work of our author team and the authors of this research is that there are some aspects of entrepreneurial mindset that are relatively more hardwired, and there are some that are more skill-based. And so, for example, with risk acceptance, could we teach someone who is most comfortable in a lower risk environment to recognize situations in which they could take greater risk? Yes, we probably could, and it might be helpful if they wanted to be more entrepreneurial, but probably we wouldn't change their overall orientation, and they would likely choose to reduce risk to make themselves a little more comfortable. Now, so there are 7 of the 14 dimensions on the EMP that are categorized as personality-based, and then there are 7 others that are categorized as more skill-based, a little more responsive to development intervention. So here are the 14 scales of the EMP, and you may notice that interpersonal sensitivity is italicized. The reason for that is of all the 14 scales that are included in the EMP, interpersonal sensitivity is the one of the 14 where entrepreneurs score themselves slightly lower, excuse me, than do corporate managers. On all the other scales, entrepreneurs on average score themselves higher than do corporate managers. There is a fantastic journal article available for those of you, excuse me, who are interested in understanding more about the psychometric properties of the instrument. And here is that reference. So, question that we like to ask people, and this is poll number 2, for whom is entrepreneurial mindset important? Is it important for managers, for entrepreneurs, for students, or for everyone? What would you say? Thank you for that. We're sharing the results here. And in principle, yes, we agree, but what we always like to reinforce is the answer really all depends on your context. And it depends on the particular scales that you're talking about in terms of entrepreneurial mindset. So for the founder of a company, we could all probably quickly agree that entrepreneurial mindset would be very beneficial. But what about a financial controller or a human resource manager or an academic advisor? Would entrepreneurial mindset serve them? And so with all our clients and students and recipients of the EMP data, we always ask the question, which of these scales are important to you? How would they help you achieve your own professional goals or meet your own professional challenges? And then we look at the data and we see what it's telling us. So we go into any coaching session or debrief session with a very open mind about what's important to each individual. So while context is everything with the EMP, we are going to suggest that for many organizational leaders, it can be very helpful to utilize an entrepreneurial mindset, especially when there is an organizational need to drive growth and innovation. And what we'd like to do is give you a chance to take a look at what the report actually looks like. So we'll walk you through briefly a sample of the EMP. What do people receive when they get their EMP results? So first they get a one-line description of each of the 7 personality scales. And then they see their own data plotted against the normative data for the corporate manager norm group and the entrepreneur norm group. So on this graph, the red line represents Sue Sample's results. The green line represents the entrepreneur norm group. And by the way, there are over 3,600 individual entrepreneurs in that norm group. And the blue line represents corporate managers, and there are close to 1,700 managers represented in that norm group. So looking at the highs and the lows, we see that Susan has a very high preference for limited structure, a high preference for need to achieve. She's high in passion as well. So we would explore those things with her, and then also explore a little bit around what her interpretation is, how that lower risk acceptance, that lower independence shows up for her and how relevant that might be. Now, the report goes on. This is a nice enhancement that's been added to our latest update of the EMP, that it offers to participants a summary of their 2 highest and their 2 lowest scores relative to the norm groups, and offers them both the potential benefits and challenges around those highs and lows. benefits, potential benefits of highs, potential benefits of lows, potential challenges of highs and lows. So that's a very helpful addition. And then the report goes on to provide that one-line description of each of the 7 skill scales, and again, the visual for the individual who is taking the assessment, along with the highlighting and description for the individual of the potential benefits and challenges of those highs and lows. The other aspect that's extremely helpful, we get lots of positive feedback here from our practitioners and our recipients of the reports, is that unlike many psychometric assessments, this particular assessment provides you with the actual items and how the individual responded to each of the items. And this can be very helpful in scenarios where people are surprised by their overall graph or their overall highs and lows. You can easily take them to the pages that show them what were the items for, in this case, persistence. What were the items that make up the interpersonal sensitivity scale, and how did you respond to those items? And so that's a helpful resource as well. And then in terms of resources, at the very back of the report, participants have access immediately to a very useful feedback video, which faculty use regularly as part of the assignments often for students who take the EMP. They are assigned the responsibility of watching the video and doing kind of a self-debrief before coming back into class and being prepared to share insights and thoughts about next steps. Another fantastic resource is the EMP Development Guide, and I'll show you a little bit about what that includes. Fantastic reference guide, which has chapters on each of the 14 dimensions of the EMP, including summaries of what that dimension is actually measuring, what it might look like if the strength were overplayed, if you're overusing, in this case, execution, what might that look like? Suggestions for development, along with a lot of options for reading and further pursuit of insights around any of the 14 dimensions. There's also some nice material on entrepreneurship in general. So it's a great guide, and anybody who takes the EMP has immediate access to that guide. Options for addressing low scores, you could just simply decide that the scales on which you score relatively low are not relevant to your job performance, your personal satisfaction, your place in the universe, and you could just forget them. As a low score isn't necessarily bad. There are some number of scenarios where somebody would score low and it actually makes complete sense to them. But there might be cases where scoring low is in fact impacting your ability to meet your goals or to address what's expected of you. And you may choose to team with somebody or more than one other person who has complementary strengths. You might choose to use the EMP Development Guide and find resources to move the needle or strengthen in an area that you scored relatively low. And you might choose to work with an EMP practitioner or an executive coach who has expertise in this area. And in terms of identifying team advantages, we wanted to just be sure to mention to you that the EMP is also available as a group report, and we've used it with a number of teams. The report itself looks very similar to what we looked at for individuals. You can see here the red line, which is the team's results, are plotted. That is the average of all the individuals on this particular corporate team and where they score high. You can see that this particular team scores very high on action orientation, risk acceptance, limited structure, need to achieve. And then they score a little bit lower than the entrepreneur norm, a little bit more like corporate managers, perhaps, in nonconformity, in independence, a little bit lower on passion. What does that look like? How does that play out for them? How might that be helping them achieve their goals? What might be getting in their way? When you work with teams and groups, there is a really nice additional element of the report that's generated for you that gives you not only the group average, which is displayed on the report, but you can see the individual low, the individual high, and then how it compares to the corporate norm and the entrepreneur norm. So really useful. And in fact, we have a fantastic team workshop facilitator kit available. It's available to you as part of your certification at a reduced rate. It is a very comprehensive package that includes a complete program that can be duplicated exactly as it's designed, or it can serve as a basic framework for you to build your own program using the EMP. It has proven to be a great time saver for a number of practitioners because it offers fully developed exercises and content, PowerPoint presentation modules, etc., ready to use exercises. So that's available to you as well. So the benefits of getting certified as an EMP practitioner. First of all, you learn how to confidently interpret EMP results at both the individual and the group level. You qualify for discounts on all individual and group EMP administrations. You gain access to a password-protected practitioner portal for administering, scoring, and managing your EMPs. You benefit from a library of resources solely for practitioners, and then you join a thriving community of practice with opportunities to attend and even to lead exclusive virtual practitioner forums. In terms of languages available, you can see here what's currently available and what's coming soon. Here is a slide that shows you the pricing and the significant discounts. If someone were to purchase the EMP individually, they would pay $80, but you as a practitioner benefit from these reduced rates that are available to you, both for the individual and the group reports. And in terms of the data pulls, that would be for those of you doing research on entrepreneurial mindset. We have some upcoming workshops happening, and we would love to see you in those workshops. If you would like to become certified, you can apply for that opportunity. You can see here what the criteria is, and then a sliding scale on the cost, just as we have a sliding scale on the cost of administration. It's a little higher for those of you working in corporate settings. And it goes down a bit for government and nonprofit employees, and then for college and university educators. If you would like to experience the EMP, we are offering for the next 2 weeks a free administration of that for you. And here's how you get access to that. Just email us at this email address within the next 2 weeks. And just a reminder that the EMP is housed within a resource-rich organization that sits inside Eckerd College, the Leadership Development Institute. We run year-round programs, world-class offerings on leadership development, also a center of expertise on conflict and mediation, with certification available as well on the conflict dynamics profile, which is an instrument specifically focused on the behavioral aspects of conflict and how to strengthen your conflict outcomes and processes. If you have any questions at this point, you are welcome to unmute and join the conversation, use the chat box, or submit questions in any other way that would be helpful for you.
Thank you so much, Maggie. And yes, please feel free to unmute yourself and ask any questions that you might have. We have practitioners wearing so many different hats in different industries. We know you may not all use it in the same way, so we can answer anything specific for your context. Hi, Rui, I saw you turn your camera on.
Yes, hi. I'm speaking from Brazil.
Nice to
Um,
see you. Thank you for joining
th-
us.
Thank you very much for your presentation. I apologize in advance for my English. Maybe it's not so good, but anyway, I think I will get myself understood anyway. Question number one. You mentioned, Maggie, that there are over 700 practitioners all over the world. Are
Yes,
there any in Brazil?
yes, there are.
Okay.
As a matter of fact,
Should,
we even have an EMP master trainer located in
oh.
Brazil. So if you prefer to become certified, not in English, but in Portuguese, that is something that we can arrange for you.
Okay, how could I get hold of him?
We would do it, we would get in touch with him and put the two of
Okay,
you in
but
touch.
anyway, English wouldn't be a problem.
Great.
You mentioned a few different fairs. I think it's the slide before the last one.
Yes, I can go
Uh,
back to that for you.
yeah, please.
Let me go back here. You talking
That's
about
the
this
one.
or
Yeah,
this one?
okay. No, the next one, please.
The next one? Okay.
Yeah. You mentioned 500 fee for college and university educators. Uh, How do I prove that I am connected to a college or to a university? Because before you answer, I I'm not. How can I put in words? I am not fully committed to a university, but every semester or so I help my one of my professors at the University of São Paulo with a specific course. I don't know if that is okay or not. I'm not really sure. Perhaps I could get a letter from her.
Yes, I was going to say if you don't have an email address through the university, generally that's the first way we know. Secondly,
Okay,
if you appear, for example, as an adjunct faculty member or a lecturer on their website. But yes, most definitely an email from someone at the university will suffice, and then you can register at that discounted education rate.
okay, that's good. That's great. I think that's all for the moment. Thank you very
That's
much.
great. Well, we would love to have you in one of our upcoming certification programs, Ray. And I'll tell you that the ones we run tend to have a pretty decent number of participants, and we always enjoy the networking that occurs between participants. So depending on whether your
Yes,
interest is networking within Brazil or networking beyond Brazil, if your focus is beyond Brazil and if you would enjoy the English experience of going through it, then come to ours. Otherwise, Debra will hook you up, and it sounds like she may hook you up anyway, if because that could be beneficial also with the colleague in Brazil.
sure. I'm fine in English. That
I
suits
can
me.
hear
Okay.
that,
Yes,
yes.
yes, you are. And we absolutely recommend coming to one of our open enrollment workshops because we do small breakout sessions and they're interactive.
Okay,
So
great.
that would
So the
be
next one
our
will be on
recommended.
the 22nd of January, right?
Yes, the next one is the 22nd of January and it will take place from 9 until 12:45 p.m. Eastern time. And if I remember correctly, Brazil is 1 hour ahead
It's
of.
either one or two, I'm not sure.
Okay, so we can definitely check that out for you. But the link that I put into the chat for certification is where you would submit your application and your registration fee. And once
Okay,
you have paid, we will send you a link to take the EMP, which is part of the pre-workshop assignments,
yeah,
as well as the practitioner manual, so you can prepare for the interactive workshop on the 22nd.
okay. I'll check on the link you've just sent to the chat right
Perfect.
after we finish here.
Wonderful. We hope you're able to join us.
Yeah, I'm very keen to it. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Nice to meet you. Hope to see you again.
Can we answer any other questions?
I'm good. Don't know whether
Hi,
Max
Hello,
has any
Max.
questions.
I'm sorry I joined late. I was actually going to skip because I turned out sick today. But
Oh,
anyways, sorry about that.
well, thank you
Um,
for joining us, Max.
yeah. My question is, I'm exploring. I learned about the AMP only relatively recently, like a couple of months ago, and I'm exploring what can be done using this approach within a college university context
Yes.
where we have entrepreneurial programs for recent graduates. So I would like to hear. I went through the material before, the one that you have available online, and I believe I have a superficial understanding of what it is. I would like to understand better on how it can be used. So you kind of touched a little bit that you can get these scorings and you can see the profiles and how they can change, and then you can interpret those. I would like to hear a little bit more if there is time, maybe 3 minutes, about how it can be used. How this interpretation, how can we come up with actions and especially in terms of development for participants to our programs.
Absolutely. Maggie, would you like me to take this one?
Go ahead. Yeah, I'll chime
Okay.
in too, but go
So
ahead.
we have, specifically speaking in terms of universities, over 200 some odd practitioners using it already in colleges and universities and entrepreneurship centers around the world. It really varies on how faculty members choose to use it. We do offer a two administration license, so many will use it at the beginning and the end of the semester and do a comparison. So during the beginning of the semester, when they first take the EMP, you will experience an exercise during certification where you do kind of a prediction, goal setting, reveal activity that you can conduct with your own students or visitors to your center, and that you'll look at the 14 scales and predict where you may be high or low, but then have them identify a goal or a challenge. And of course, that will be very personal to each person. And then you'll have them look at the list of those 14 scales that the EMP measures and identify up to 3 of them that they feel will be important for them to score high on in order to achieve their goal or challenge. Because then at that point, you can reveal the results. And whereas human nature may have someone look directly at the high and the low, those may not be the particular scales that are relevant to the goal or challenge that they've identified. And that's where you can then leverage the EMP development guide by having them read up about what does a high score mean? What does a super high score mean to the point where they may be overplaying their strength? And then what are suggestions for development and resources they can access? In the back, there's an action planning section. So for each student to whom you administer the EMP, they will get their results in the form of a feedback report, as well as access to that EMP development guide that I mentioned, and a 14.5-minute interpretive video. I'd be more than happy, Max, to send you some links to our blog and our archive showing how other academic practitioners use the assessment. We've had some where the students create podcasts and YouTube videos, others where they're using it in experiential group exercises and they leverage the EMP group report to look at team dynamics. So there are a wide variety of ways, not to mention curriculum development or benchmarking, excuse me, within your institution over time.
Thank you, Deborah. Very clear. So if I understand it correctly, the core, the principles on for this approach, they are in this guide, EMP guide, right? Is this something that is discussed or let's say further explained in these workshops? or is it part of the certification? How does it work?
So the workshop is exclusively for you, for the person who wants to become more knowledgeable about the assessment and know how to administer it and help people interpret their results. So you will then gain that knowledge. You will have received a practitioner manual as part of your pre-workshop assignments, and you'll be taught skills and best practices for actually conducting a debrief session. As a matter of fact, we have a recorded session that our practitioners to be will watch where Maggie does sit down with a client and go over their results. There are materials available in a learning management system inside the portal that all EMP practitioners gain access to. And so you are going to get all of those skills and materials and resources, so then you can integrate it into whatever you're doing in your entrepreneurship center or your programs or your courses. So the only person who gets certified would be you, and that allows you then to be able to administer to others and use it in your programs and courses.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
And is there a deadline for signing up for the 22nd?
For the 22nd, to be honest, the registration deadline is 2 weeks out.
Is
So it really is supposed to be today or tomorrow.
today or tomorrow? Okay.
And so the reason for that, by the way, is because you'll get to take the EMP as part of your certification. And we want to allow enough time for the practitioners to read the pre-workshop materials and be able to come prepared for the session. So yes, you can go on to the website. There are still a few spaces available for the 22nd. I'd hate for you to have to wait until May, which is the next time we have an open
Yeah.
enrollment workshop.
Let's see if I manage to get all the approvals aligned. Thank you.
Absolutely, absolutely. Any other questions that Maggie or I can answer?
Not at the moment. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you so much for attending. We hope to see you in a few weeks. I'll be looking for an email or your applications.